Dave Walls, Director of Navigant Consulting, on how electric vehicles sitting idle could double as energy storage for tomorrow's power grid, and why fleets are one of the best places to begin testing this concept.
When we talk about fleets of storage, I think they could be in one place or they could be distributed. It really depends a lot on the communication control technology and the architecture that's available. You can envision a scenario where cars are distributed throughout a neighborhood, and through centralized communication control software, they could be controlled in a uniform manner, such that that if there's a need for power during the day, say to meet a peak load requirement, they could be utilized for that purpose. In a way, it simplifies things more if you have a fleet and you have a big parking lot full of cars. But they would need to be connected to the grid. Obviously, they would need to be plugged in one form or another in order to interface with the grid. I think probably from a practical standpoint, some of the early opportunities are probably with some of those fleet owners in having aggregated capacity in one location that may be sitting idle at times, like during the weekend or off peak. You have to really look at what are the use patterns for the automobiles or the fleet vehicles, if they're trucks or delivery vehicles or whatever. What are the use patterns, and how do those use patterns match with the demand for power in the grid? And where are the opportunities to create value? I don't think some of those studies have really been done yet, but I think I don't think it's. I don't think it's unreasonable to believe that some of those issues could be addressed, fairly readily in the next few years. I think we have the capability to understand that, to collect the information, and with the development of, or the really the deployment, I should say, of smart grid technology. Smart grid technology gives you the communication and control architecture, if you will, that will allow utilities or energy providers to know what consumers are doing and when they need power, and it will allow them to have two-way control. Right now, there's really only one-way interface with a customer. Power flows to the customer. Information doesn't flow back. When we have information coming back, and we can use that information, we can create value, and that's where really storage, I think, the opportunities for storage with electric vehicles could come in. I don't think we know exactly how it'll work. Obviously, one of the challenges is that the consumer, if they allow their car to be used as electricity storage, they don't want to come back to their car and see that the batteries have been depleted. They are going to have some type of criteria and some intelligence that would say, I'm going to be away from the car for a certain period of time. And during that period of time, you can use the capacity, but you also have to recharge it. So we have to have the algorithms, the intelligence, to know that you can use it up to a certain point, but then at a certain point, it's going to have to be replenished. And that requires not just information about the electricity price at a point in time, but understanding what it's going to be in the future. So, it does get fairly complicated, because not only do we have to understand what's happening in real time, but we have to be able to forecast more accurately. And again, with a lot of the smart grid technology, we have more ability to do that. We understand quite well today what energy use patterns are. And so we know, for example, in the late afternoon, consumers typically come home. So, they turn up their air conditioning, they turn on their television sets, so you get an afternoon blip in power need, in the residential market. The commercial market, on the other hand, people go home at the end of the day, they can turn out their lights, that goes down. We understand a lot of these basic patterns of use, and we understand things like weather implications and all these other variables. So we can forecast, I think, what energy demands are, and we can use that information to figure out how to use energy storage intelligently.